Hello friends, welcome to Mahipal Reddy's GK House. Myself Prithvidhar Reddy. Today we are going to discuss important current affairs. Okay, so let us begin our discussion with the MCQ. SATAT scheme is related to. So there are four options given: transportation sector, cooking gas, nuclear energy, and hydrocarbons. Okay, the right answer is what is that? Transportation sector. Because government wanted to make this transport sector more sustainable. So it can be made more sustainable if we are able to decrease our dependence on the hydrocarbons, that is petroleum resources. And most of the petroleum resources that India require, 70% of the requirements are imported from the other countries. So in order to reduce the dependence on the imports, at the same time, in order to increase the resource base at the domestic level, this scheme is actually launched by the government of India. Let us discuss what it is. It is a sustainable alternative towards affordable transportation. SATAT means sustainable alternative towards affordable transportation. So it means the fuel which we are going to generate is sustainable, and at the same time it is also making the transportation sector more affordable. Okay, and it is launched by Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gases. Okay, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas had launched this particular scheme. So under this particular scheme, what is going to be done? So we are going to develop a compressed biogas plants. Okay, these compressed biogas plants are to be set up by both farmers and independent entrepreneurs. Farmers and independent entrepreneurs. So this is called a compressed biogas. Okay, it is going to be produced by the farmers and entrepreneurs, and it is going to be transported by the oil marketing companies. It means the government had entered into a memorandum of understanding with the oil marketing companies. And of course, in the process of this particular biogas generation, we are going to get a biomanure, carbon dioxide. Okay, these will enhance the returns on the investment. So at the same time, we are going to get gas. On the other hand, we are going to get the biomanure and carbon dioxide. This will be helping out the production process to be more cost effective. Okay, so it will give the returns to the farmers also. Okay, not only the gas but also the byproducts. Okay, then coming to the biogas. Okay, what does the biogas contain? The biogas contain 95% of the methane. 95% of the methane will be there in the biogas. Okay, so it is produced by the anaerobic decomposition. Anaerobic means in the absence of the oxygen, any decomposition takes place, that is anaerobic decomposition. It means in the anaerobic process, what will happen? Usually, non-oxygen terminal electron acceptor will be there. Okay, so in the aerobic respiration, oxygen is a terminal electron acceptor. So that's the reason why water is a byproduct of the aerobic respiration or aerobic decomposition. In the anaerobic decomposition, the methane is the byproduct. Okay, and coming to the uh, compressed biogas, it is nothing but commercial available natural gas, and it is also renewable because it is produced from the organic material. Organic material, that's why it is called a renewable automobile fuel or automotive fuel. And what are the oil marketing companies? We have Indian Oil Company and HPCL, BPCL, GAIL, okay, Gas Authority of India Limited. In this way, there is a MOU that had been signed between government and oil marketing companies. For the first time, this CBD, okay, it means CBD means city-based distribution. What is that called? City-based distribution. So it means the compressed, sorry, yes, the compressed natural gas is going to be distributed on the at the domestic level. So the distribution would take place at the domestic level. Okay, so city-based gas distribution, CGD means city-based gas distribution, and CBD means compressed biogas. Okay, so that will be happening through this particular agreement. And the next one, there is a question, second question. CGA is Controller General of Accounts is a constitutional office, statutory office, executive office, or none of the above. These are the four options. Actually, Comptroller Auditor General is the constitutional office. Okay. Whereas CGA is not a constitutional office, rather it is an executive office. It does not have the statutory status also. It works under the Ministry of Finance. Okay, especially under the Ministry of Expenditure. Okay, that's why it is called executive office, because most of you get confused with CAG and CGA. CAG's duty is only to auditing, and CGA will advise the government in the manner how the accounts must be kept. So that will be advised by the CGA. He is a professional auditor, so he will be advising the government the manner of keeping accounts. And only when the accounts are kept in a proper manner, then only it will be properly audited. Okay, that is the important function as far as the government is concerned. Then coming to this particular news, center's fiscal deficit is 9.3%. So there are two types of deficit. One is revenue deficit and second one is the fiscal deficit. What is revenue deficit? If the government is not able to meet the general expenses of the government, like for example, the government has to run what is needed, giving salaries to the employees, okay, and repairing works, asset management, okay, and also pensions. So it means it is nothing but the investment that is needed to run the government, that is called revenue deficit. It is an expenditure that is required to run the government. You are not going to do anything additional. You're not going to build an infrastructure project. You're not going to build an asset. Rather, you would repay the asset, existing asset. You would pay the pensions. You would pay the salaries. So that is called a revenue deficit. It means if you are not able to meet the current expenditure of the government, the usual day-to-day routine expenditure of the government, that is called a revenue deficit. And coming to the fiscal deficit, if the government is not able to meet, okay, the developmental requirements, okay, it means what is the fiscal deficit mean? It is nothing but the borrowing requirement of the government. What is that? Borrowing requirement of the government. If the government is not able to get the sufficient revenue to meet its expenditure targets, so definitely the government has to borrow. Okay, so in this way, what will happen? The revenue deficit is also added to the fiscal deficit. Usually, if the revenue deficit, actually, according to the Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act of 2003, what it does say, it says that periodically you have to make this particular revenue deficit to become zero and fiscal deficit to be confined to only 3% of the GDP. So this is what the target. But of course, because of the continuous economic crisis the India had faced since that point of time, so India could not maintain that required numbers. Okay, but ideally speaking, the revenue deficit must become zero and fiscal deficit should be contained well below 3% of the GDP. Okay, so I think you might have understood this concept. And coming to the CGA, it is under the Department of Expenditure, and it is a principal advisor to the Government of India. It is a principal advisor to the Government of India. And the annual appropriation accounts. Appropriation means how the expenditure is taking place, how the money is spent, that is actually given by the appropriation accounts. Okay, so these are submitted to the Parliament. And the current Controller General of Accounts is Srimati Soma Rai, and she is the 24th Controller General of Accounts. Okay, so what the news talks about is center's fiscal deficit is 9.3%. You understand, ideally speaking, it must be limited, it must be confined at the 3%. But it is growing and growing. The revenue deficit became 7.42% and the fiscal deficit is 9.3%. It means if you deduct this particular revenue deficit, how much money is left out for the development? Only just about 2% money is available for the government to go with the developmental projects. So this is what the pathetic situation of the public finance. Okay. And coming to next question, Da Vinci Plus is a mission to which of the following planets? So 4 options given: Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Venus. So this is launched by NASA, America's space agency. Okay, so the answer is Venus. So recently, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, that is called NASA, had announced two robotic missions to Venus. Two robotic missions to Venus. We will discuss what are those. So these missions will try to understand how the Venus became inferno-like world capable of melting lead at the surface. Melting lead at the surface. Basically, it is having the melting lead. So the lead is in the form of melt form, okay, dissolved form. So how it is happening over there? So this is what the subject matter of this particular NASA's mission, okay, to the Venus. And these are the two missions, as I told you, Da Vinci Plus and the Veritas. So what is the Da Vinci Plus? It will be the first of the two missions. This is the first mission, and it will analyze the thick and cloudy the Venus atmosphere in an attempt to determine whether Inferno planet ever had an ocean and was possibly habitable. So it means whether any life form can be survived over there, and whether in the history whether was there any ocean. So this was a matter of the study in front of the Da Vinci Plus. And coming to the Veritas, it is the second one, seeking a geological history by mapping the rocky planet surface. So geological history means how the rocky mass had been evolved. Okay, so whether was there any seismic activity, how the rocks have been formed, whether the rocks are igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, or metamorphic rocks, what is the age of the rocks. So these all will be studied under this particular Veritas mission. Okay, so there are various previous missions, because examiner will be very much keen testing both your dynamic knowledge as well as the static knowledge. So that's the reason why we have to study what were the previous missions also. So US had sent a Mariner series, Pioneer Venus 1, Pioneer Venus 2 in the year 1978, and Magellan in the 1989. So it means the current mission has been taken place, is going to be taken place after very long gap of more than 30 years. Okay, and Russia's Venera series of spacecrafts in the years between 1967 1983, and also Vega's 1 and 2 in the 1985. So it means you can compare America and Russia's missions. So during the Cold War period, what happened? So both were in the too much competition in order to explore the space. So they wanted to show their upmanship, okay, over the other. And Japan had sent a recent mission, Akatsuki, in the year 2015, and also Europe, Venus Express in the year 2005. And India also plans to launch a new orbiter named as Shukrayan to the Venus. Actually, Venus is called as Shukra Graham. Okay, so in order to study, orbiter means this will be rotating, revolving around this particular Venus planet. So that's why it is called orbiter. Okay, so India plans to send such a mission to Venus in the year 2024. And coming to the Venus planet, it is the second planet from the sun. It is the second planet from the sun. Okay, and sixth in the solar system in the size and mass. As far as the size and mass is concerned, it is ranking sixth. Okay, and it is the second brightest natural object in the night sky after the moon. After the moon, the very brightest star, planet is like Venus. And Venus and Uranus spin clockwise on their axis. Basically, all the planets revolved in the anti-clockwise, but these two planets would revolve in the clockwise on their axis. And secondly, it is the hottest planet in the solar system because of the high concentration of the carbon dioxide, because the carbon dioxide is reason for the global warming. Okay, and that means the carbon dioxide is reason for the greenhouse effect. We will be studying the phenomenon of greenhouse effect in the coming classes, because whenever the situation arises, I will discuss that topic also. And next one, first human case of the bird flu was found in. So 4 options are given: Hong Kong, Malaysia, China, and India. See, whatever the new infection that is there with the world in the current times, all the fingers are pointed towards China itself. So answer is China. Yes, bird flu the human case of the bird flu was found in China. Of course, it is little mild, as China says. And China reported the first case of the human infection with the H10N3 strain of the bird flu in the Jiangsu province. Okay, and it is what is that? H10N3 subtype of the influenza A virus. So question may come. So the strain exact name also H10N3. It is a subtype of the influenza A virus, which is commonly called as bird flu virus. And it is a low pathogenic. Of course, it is not that much severe as compared to the COVID. It is relatively less severe, and it will be spreading among the animals the way the COVID-19 is spreading, okay, through the respiratory droplets. Okay, through the respiratory droplets. Through the respiratory means this virus may be spreading from one person to the other person. Coming to the bird flu, it is also known as avian influenza. Okay, avian, because birds are called avians. Okay, so it is very highly contagious viral disease. It will be affecting all the species of food producing birds like chickens, turkeys, quails, guinea fowl, etc. All these are affected. Okay, occasionally these may also affect the mammals as well as the other animals. Okay, then SSCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization agreement on the mass media cooperation. So actually government of India actually approved and signed this particular cooperation in the field of the mass media between all the member states of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. India also is a member of this particular SSCO, and this agreement is signed in the year June 19. It will provide an opportunity for the member countries to share the innovations and best practices in the field of the mass media. It means it's a kind of engagement between one country's media with the other country's media. Okay, both print media as well as electronic media. Then, so the main areas of cooperation would be mutual and wide distribution of information, like transferring the information from one country to the other country, which is useful for the public consumption, and cooperation among the editorial offices. Okay, so that will be happening through this agreement, and promoting equal and mutually beneficial cooperation between the professional associations of the journalists, because in the professional associations means editors, okay, newspaper guilds, everything will be there. Among them, this particular association will be there. And aiding broadcast of television. As I told you, the relationship among the media is very, very widespread. Okay, it will be cutting across all types of media. Okay, then coming to Shanghai Cooperation Organization, it is a permanent and also intergovernmental international organization. It is not a kind of war association. Okay, and it is not defense related organization, as if we want to tell clearly. And it is an Eurasian political, economic and military organization aiming to maintain the peace and security and stability in the region. Okay, of course India does not take the name of the military organization, but usually it is called military organization, but in fact it does not have any role to play in the military matters of India. Okay, formation, it was created in the year 2001, and the SCO charter was signed in the year 2002, and official languages of this particular SCO is Russian and Chinese languages. Okay, so question may come, because since the India is also member, examiner may ask you, so which of the following languages are listed under this particular Shanghai Cooperation Organization? But in fact, the right answer would be Russia and Chinese language. Then members include Kazakhstan, China, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, India and Pakistan. So these are the member countries. Okay, so and the 20th summit of the SCO took place in the year 2020. And next important thing is a new book was written regarding the relationship between Nepal and China, that is Nepal's turn to China. So it means all roads lead to north and Nepal's turn to China. So this is what the book. And what does this book talk about? The book is the blend of history, travel, and imagination. Okay, it's a kind of travel book and history book. It offers a long view of Nepal's foreign relations by China's world power status, how China is influencing the Nepal's foreign policy, how China is influencing the Nepal. Okay, how Nepal is finding new friends. Okay, leaving behind India. So this is what the content of this particular book, and this particular author belongs to Nepal. Okay, so thank you, friends. Thank you for watching this video. And I will be providing you most important current affairs for all the examinations. Please do watch till the end. And if you have any specific query, please leave in the comment box. Thank you so much.